Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into our webinar on securing personally identifiable information, best practices for FinTech and FinServ with Postgres. I am Annie, your host, and today I have Umair Shahid with us, who is the founder of Stormatics, as the speaker for this session. So before we dive in, a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and of course, you will receive the recording along with relevant materials at the end of this session. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the chat function or again the Q&A feature. We'll do our best to address as many as possible during the allotted time. The rest of them will be answered in our post-webinar blog. Thank you again for joining us. Without further ado, I will hand over the controls to Umair. Thank you, Umair, and good luck.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you everyone for joining in. This topic was chosen because it feels like the financial technology and the financial services sector is a big fan of Postgres. We've found the Postgres use to be pretty dominant, especially in greenfield applications. And what I wanted to do was to try and understand what specific concerns the financial services sector has in regards to the use of their database. And one of the primary factors that came to my attention was how to make sure that personally identifiable information is secure in the database. And not only is it secure in the database, that it is unreadable and unbreachable, even in the case of a security lapse, even in the case data is stolen. So that's how we came up with this topic. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about different features in Postgres that we can leverage in order to secure PII. Now, what is personally identifiable information? As the name says, as the term says, it's data that can be used to identify an individual. And some examples of that information are name and passport number, address, phone number, driver's license, medical information, et cetera, et cetera. This is not a comprehensive list. These are examples just to give you an idea of what kind of information needs to be labeled under the PII and secured. Now, why is this so important, and what is so special about PII that is not relevant to other kinds of data? PII can be used for fraud, for violations of privacy, and perhaps more alarmingly, for identity theft. What that means is that if a criminal gets access to your personally identifiable information, they can use it for malicious intent and malicious purposes. It also means that if hackers get access to a large chunk of PII from an organization's database, they now have a wealth of information that can be used for fraudulent activities. It's also because of this very reason, because it is so critical for the protection of individuals, that lots of laws and regulations exist pretty much all over the world that govern the usage of how you store data inside your database and how that data is used. An example list of such laws and regulations is listed over here. So, you got PCI DSS, which is payment card industry, data security standard, SOC 2, HIPAA, which is related directly to the healthcare industry. GDPR is an EU regulation that protects privacy rights of individuals. ISO 27001 is a security standard for ISO. DORA is an act that's coming into effect in January of the coming year of 2025, and it will govern most of EU. NIST and FedRAMP, they're US-specific laws and regulations. But this is just to give you an idea that there are lots of laws and regulations that protect personally identifiable information, and you need to abide by these laws and regulations. Now, to an organization that stores data, what are the risks in case of a breach? One obvious risk is financial losses. In case of a breach, you will need to contain the damage, and that will incur a direct financial loss. There will be legal fees because probably you're going to be hit by lawsuits. You will need to compensate the impacted customers as well. That adds up to a lot of financial loss. The reputation is damaged, sometimes irreparably. The brand is harmed, and the loss of customer trust is huge. That also compounds the financial losses in the medium to long run. The regulators, we just talked about a lot of laws and regulations that are prevalent in this sector. There are humongous penalties associated with such a breach in case something like that happens. And then, of course, in case of a breach like this,